Hello everyone and welcome to episode 6 of my Python tutorial series. Today we are going to learn how to make a basic GUI using tkinter, an excellent built-in library for Python that lets us build simple app interfaces. So today we are going to learn not only how to use that, but also incorporate two of our previous projects into this one, so that way we can have an app to show people our cool projects. I need better click-through rate, so we are going to start right away. Now, because tkinter is a built-in library, we don't need to install it, so we can simply go straight into making a new file. And I will name mine tkinter test.py. And I'm going to open it with my idle. Okay, now of course, if we want to use the library, the first thing we need to do is import it. So we are not going to type import tkinter. Instead, we are going to type from tkinter import, and then Shift 8 on your keyboard, so the asterisk. The asterisk will import everything from tkinter. Okay, now that we've imported tkinter, we can make a new variable. And the new variable is going to be our new window. So for example, I have this window to look at the Python script, and I have this window to look at File Explorer, and I'm sure you've seen many other windows. Every app on Windows and Apple computers generally have a window, which is this box that lets us see the app. Now to make one, we just need to make a variable. So I will name mine root, and although you can name yours differently, I recommend you name yours root, because that is the general term for the root of the screen, which is what we are making. So root equals, and then pay attention, it is capital T, lowercase k, which stands for tkinter, and then we do parentheses. And now if I hit F5 to run it, look at that, we have a little screen. Now this screen has literally nothing in it right now, but we do have a screen. And look at this, you can even resize it and minimize it and open it back up again. So we've now made a screen, but we need to add some stuff to it. The easiest thing to add is a label or just some text. So let's do that first. To make one, I need to make a variable for it, which I will call label1. And now label1 will equal capital L label, and then in parentheses, we need to put a few things. The first thing we need to do is which screen we want it to show on. And of course, ours is called root, so we will put in here root, and then comma. And now we can set which text we want to show up. So I will type text, and then after the equals, I will put quotation marks. And in the quotation marks, I will write hello world, or whatever text you want. Now that we have some text written, and we have the label, let's see what happens. Nothing. We don't see the label. And the reason why is because we made it, we just never put it onto the screen. To put it onto the screen, we need to do the second part of doing a label, which is very simple. Now, I will show you this. There is a better way we are about to learn, but this is the quickest way to put something onto the screen. All you need to do to put it onto the screen is type the name of your label, so label1, and then dot pack. Now, pack will literally just take your label and shove it onto the screen. It doesn't really care where it goes. It will just go into the first slot that's available. And so when we hit this, look at that. It says hello world. And we have our basic little screen. Now, if we wanted to, we can add more labels. So let's try that next. Now, if you noticed, when you add a label, it is a two-step process. The first step is to create the label. The second step is to put the label onto the screen. So almost always, when you are using tkinter, you'll be making the label, then putting it on the screen in different lines of code. So when you're architecturing this, there are multiple options on how you can architecture it. But for the sake of simplicity for this video, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to put some space in between the creation of labels and the labels actually being put onto the screen. So up here, I will write all my code for adding the labels, and down here, I will do all the code for putting the labels on the window. So with that architecture explained, let's create a new label. Up here, I will make label2 equals capital L label, parentheses, and then in the parentheses, of course, we want to put it onto root. So I will type root here. And then I will say text equals this tutorial is taught. Now remember, this won't show up on screen yet. We now need to put it on the screen. So down here, I will type label2.pack. And when we hit run, look at that. We have both of the labels. What pack does when you add a UI element is that it will add it directly below the previous one. So if we add a label 3, it will show up down here, and then a label 4 will show up down here, and then a label 5 will show down here, etc. Okay, Now, we've already learned how to pack elements into a screen. However, there is a better way, as I've said before, and this is what I'm going to teach you before we go into the button example. For this, let's make a new file, of course. And I will call this grid.py. And here I will show you how grids work. Now, just like before, we need to do from tkinter import all, and then root equals tk. And now let's make some labels. So the first one I'm going to make is label 1 equals label. And then in here I will say text equals this is label 1. And then I will put label 2 equals label. This is label 2. Now before, whenever you pack something onto it, it would just add to the bottom of the column. However, with this, we can make multiple columns and multiple rows. Now let me explain how that works. The top left of the screen will be column 0, row 0. Columns go up and down, so column 0 is the farthest left one. Then 1 to the right is column 1. Then 1 to the right of that is column 2, etc. And then for the rows, we will start with row 0 on the top, and then the next row will be row 1, and then the next row will be row 2, etc. So as you go down, the rows increase, and as you go right, the columns increase. Now, before we were all in column 0, and it was just adding more rows. However, we can put them in whatever configuration we like. So for example, I will say label 1 dot grid, and then in here we can set the exact row and column we want them to be on. So for this one, let's do row equals 0, column equals 0. Now for label 2, let's put it right to the right of that. So to do that, let's do label 1.grid, and let's keep it in the same row, so it's the same position up and down, and then put it in column 1. Now if I hit run, look at that, it puts it just to the right of it. So this will let us put many objects on the screen in the position we want. However, there is one caveat to that, and that is if we put this on column 5, you might think it's going to go all the way to the right. However, we see that that is not the case. In fact, it looks exactly the same as last time. The reason why is because even though we put it in column 5, and this is in column 0, column 1, we didn't put anything in, so it skips. Column 2, we didn't put anything in it, so it skips. Same for 3 and 4. So it just skips all the empty ones and puts something in column 5. So that might be quite annoying for some of our projects. However, there are plenty of ways to get around this. It will just take some finicking. So for example, let's say we wanted to put some space in it. We could say space equals label. I'll just put a whole bunch of spaces. Now if I put space into here as a grid and put it in row 0, column equals 1, so it's after label 1 and before label 2, then when I run this, it will have some extra space in there. And then I can control how much space is in between them by putting extra space bars. See that? There's more space now. So this is good information to know, especially with our future projects. Now, let's say instead of putting it in the same column, I wanted to put label 1 on the top left and label 2 on the bottom right. Well, all I would need to do is put the column as 1, so that way it's to the right, and then row 1, so that way it's on the bottom. And now when I run it, see this? It puts this on the top left because it's still 0, 0, and then 1, 1 would be this label. So this is a very easy way to organize your GUI that you make. Now that we know how grids work, let's get started right away with our button example. Okay, now we know how to make labels. Let's do something a little more fun. Let's make a button. So let's make a new file. I will name mine button.py. And then I will open it up. And just like always, we need to import our library first. So from tkinter import asterisk. And then root equals tk. So that way we can make our screen. And we can check that real quick. And we have a screen. Perfect. Okay, now let's add the button. So remember, whenever we add an element to the screen, it's going to be a two-step process. The first thing we need to do is make the button. The second action is going to be putting it on the screen. So first, let's name the button. I will name mine button1 equals capital B button. And then in parentheses, I'm going to type root to put it on the screen. And then, of course, we can put some text on here. So we'll say text equals. And then in here, I'll type click me. And now we've made our button, but we need to add it to the screen. The next step is button1 dot pack. Now we do have another part of our code that we need to run in order for buttons to work, and that is the main loop. Basically, whenever you're on a website, there's code that's constantly running, figuring out where your mouse is. So if my mouse is moving up, it will show my mouse being here, then here, then here, then here, then here. And then when I click, because the code is constantly running, it can see that the click has happened. So to make the button work, we need to make that code that's constantly running over and over again, checking for our clicks. And to do that, we're going to do root.main loop, and then parentheses. Now when I hit run, look at that, we have a beautiful button. Now if we come over here and click it, nothing happens. And that is because it is a simple button and we have given it no code to run, and that's pretty sad. So let's fix that. Now we can make a button run basically any code. All we have to do is make a function for it. So let's start with some code that we've already learned, that being adding a label. So what we're going to do is, if you remember our label code, we are going to make a function that when we call the function, it will make a label. So up here, I will use def to create a function, just like we have before. And then let's name our function. So I will do add label, parentheses, colon. And then down here, let's make our label code. So I will call my new label, you can call it whatever you want, equals capital L label. And then in here, of course, we need to put it to the root screen. And then put some text, so I will put text equals. And then in parentheses, I shall say, I have been summoned. And you can put whatever text you want, of course. And now down here, we need to add it onto the screen, which is super simple. You just do new label, or the name of your label, dot pack, parentheses. And now when this function is called, it will create a new label, and then it will pack the label onto the screen, which is exactly what we've done before. It's just in a function now. So now, how do we make it to where when you click the button, it runs the code? Well, it's actually really easy, just like most things in tkinter. So to add a new parameter to the button, we need to put a comma after the text, and then we will put command equals, and then the name of my command, which my command is called add label. Whatever your function is, type the name of your function here. Now, importantly, do not put the parentheses on this. If you put parentheses on a tkinter button command, it will just completely break and do it out of order. So make sure that you don't have a parentheses here. But now that we've told it that the command to do when you press the button is add label, let's see what happens. And look at this, we have a button, and when I click it, it will do our function, which is create a new label, then add it to the screen. So when I click it, you see exactly that that's what happens. But remember, every time we click it, it adds it below. So if I keep clicking this, it just keeps it going. And this is pretty funny to me. I like it. Okay, now that we know how to make buttons work and stuff show on the screen, there are almost infinite possibilities for us. So what we are going to do as our final project today is incorporate the two mechanics that we have learned that are the most sophisticated so far. That being the grid system and activating functions with buttons. And what this project is going to do is we are going to display the previous projects we've done in a GUI. We are going to make a button that does our server checker for Minecraft, and we are also going to do a button to activate our turtle code. This project is going to be fantastic for you because this means that instead of having to show everybody your individual projects, you can just show them this one, and it will have buttons that let you show everybody your other projects. So let's once more make a new file, and I will name mine projectdisplay.py. Okay, let's open this up. And now, of course, the first thing we need to do is set up our tkinter. So from tkinter, import all. And now root equals tk. Now, importantly, we can't do anything with turtle unless we import it. So let's go back up to the top where we have our import stuff. And I will add import turtle. Now we have our turtle code back. And I'm going to type def, so make a function. And I will make this turtle code. and then colon, of course. And now tabbed in, we can literally just add any of the old turtle code we want, now that we have turtle imported. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste some code from our old example. If you don't have it, if you don't still have your old turtle code, then you can use mine as a reference, or you can go back into the old video. However, I do strongly recommend that if you haven't seen those videos, you go do them first, because otherwise this is going to make very little sense to you. But let me copy and paste this in. And now I have my old turtle code. Now remember, this won't run yet because it's in a function. We need to call the function. So to call the function, we need a button. And that means we need to make a button. So I will say turtle button equals capital B button. And then in here, of course, we need to put it on the root screen. And then we'll put some text on it. And I will say run turtle example. You can put whatever text you want, of course. And then I will do comma and then command equals turtle code. Now remember to get the capitalization correct for whatever you typed in. And remember, do not add extra parentheses here. And now this button is created, but remember it won't show up on the screen until we tell it to be put on the screen. And we are going to do that with the grid system. So I will do turtle button dot grid and then in parentheses. And I want to put this button on the top left. So I'm going to do row equals 0, column equals 0. And this should work as long as we remember to add the root.main loop. And now when we hit run, now we have a button, and when we press the button, look at that, it did our turtle example from before. So, we just made a button that runs all of our old code, and that was shockingly easy. Literally all you needed to do was make a button and put all your old code in it. This is super cool. Okay, now that we have that done, we're basically going to do the same thing but with a few modifications for the Minecraft server checker. Now, of course, the first thing we need to do is import our library. So, from MC status, import. Now, I'm going to do a Bedrock server because I know one that's constantly online. But if you want to challenge yourself, which I highly recommend you do, and you know a server, try checking for a Java server. But for now, I'm going to do from MC status, import Bedrock server. Now, my code will, of course, only work for the Bedrock server. But if you paid attention in the previous videos, or you can go back and watch them again, you should be able to do this for Java as well. But anyways, now I'm going to make the function, so def, and then I will name mine server checker, and then parentheses and colon. So next we do server equals bedrock server dot lookup, just like before. And then in here in quotation marks, we will write the name of the server. So for me, I'm going to do the bedrock server play.lbsg.net colon 19132. And that will be the server that I'm checking. Then we get the status of that server. So status equals server.status. Now, just for now, let's print just how many players are online, and then we can add a whole bunch of stuff later. Okay, so now we have the server status, which includes how many players are online, and now we need to print it. However, we can't just print in the console, right? We're using a GUI, so we need to make it show up on the screen. So we are just going to use a label and put the label under the button. You already know how to do that, so let's do it. I will name my player count label. That's going to be the name of mine. You can name it whatever you want. Equals capital L label root and then text equals, and now what you might think is we need to type what we've done before, which is status.players.online. This would in theory work but doesn't actually, and the reason why is because status.players.online is a number, and when we say text, it's looking for a string, so it's looking for the stuff in quotation marks. And we're giving it a number, that's not string. However, there's a very easy way to turn it into string, and that's literally typing str, and then putting parentheses around the thing that you want to turn it into a string. So str will stringify, or turn into quotation mark version, status.players.online. Okay, now that we've shown the player count label, let's put it on the screen. So I will say player count label dot grid. And then in here, let's do row equals 1, column equals 1. And I'll show you why in a second. So to add our button, let's do Minecraft button equals capital B button in parentheses. I'll put root, and then after root, I will say text equals run server checker. And I'll put Minecraft in there, just so we're clear. Okay, and then command equals, and I will make this one say server checker. So now that button is created, we just need to put it on the screen. So I will write Minecraft button dot parentheses row. So now remember, the rows are the left and right areas. So if we put it on row 0, it'll be on the top. If we put it on row 1, it'll be the next section down. Row 2 will be the next section down, etc. But we don't want that. We want to move it 1 to the right. So the row is going to stay the same, and the column, which are the big up and down spots, we're going to move it 1 to the right. So I will say column equals 1. So theoretically, the turtle button should be row 0, column 0. So that's top left. And the Minecraft button, which I just realized I forgot to type graded in here, will say row 0, so the same row, column 1. So 1 to the right of the turtle button. And finally, we can see that the player count label is row 1, so 1 down, and column 1, so 1 to the right. So it's going to be directly underneath our button. And if we hit play, that's exactly what we see. See, we have a button here, we have a button here, and then if I click the Minecraft server checker, if all of our code works, what it should do is check the server, get the number, put the number in a label, and then put the label underneath our MC server checker button. So when I click, look at that, it put the number right there, so it's working perfectly. And it says there's 7,000 players online. And I can even click again, and it'll constantly update. So that's super fun, extremely useful. We have a GUI, so you can show people your projects. And so with that, we have finally completed our big GUI project. Hopefully you had a lot of fun. This is a great way to show people your projects, and I will see you in the next video. Farewell.